Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Dr. Tidman. Thank you for taking the time to review this video, which is a short review of research. I post these brief research reviews every Monday. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be informed of my future video postings. This presentation will be my take on the elements, study design, and results of the study I'm reviewing. I'll also put a link in the description to the original study article so that you can read it for yourself. Please remember that these presentations are for informational and educational purposes only. Please contact your medical team before making any changes. My background, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a metabolic health practitioner, a professor, and the director of clinical research for the Colorado Parkinson Foundation. Since 2018, I have been conducting clinical research in Parkinson's disease. Some of my former research study presentations are located on my channel, so check them out. I've also posted some presentations on gut health and general health improvements. I invite you to review them and comment and let me know if you have any questions. Today I will be reviewing briefly a study by Athuda et al. Entitled Insulin Resistance and Parkinson's Disease, a New Target for Disease Modification. Again, thank you for checking out my channel. The agenda for this presentation include reviewing the details of the research article briefly, reviewing some of the concepts and topics that they investigated. I'm going to review briefly the author's conclusions, and then I'm going to apply their conclusions to some tips for daily living. That's pretty typical when I do these research reviews. So insulin is a hormone we all have heard of. Its major responsibility is to manage and control blood glucose levels. But as the authors pointed out, insulin can also cross the blood-brain barrier and influence a multitude of processes in the brain, including the regulation of brain glucose, neuronal survival, growth, even some functions with dopamine, and the maintenance of synapses and pathways, and can have influences on things like cognition. Defective insulin signaling pathways can contribute to the development of pathological features in the brain, and some of these features are seen in Parkinson's disease. There is growing research that insulin plays a more major role than we thought in the protection of those neurons that produce dopamine in the substantia nigra. As you remember, the substantia nigra in the brain is one of the major areas for the production of dopamine. Studies have suggested that up to 50 or even 80% of patients with Parkinson's also have abnormal blood glucose control and elevated levels of insulin. I myself have found this in my 8 years of conducting research with patients with Parkinson's disease. There appears in some of these patients to be a reduction in insulin signaling, especially in the substantia nigra of the brain. This disruption can often precede the death of dopamine-producing neurons. Insulin resistance in patients with Parkinson's is associated with more severity in the disease progression, and it accelerates the progression of the disease, and creates an increased risk of cognitive decline. Reversal of insulin resistance can oftentimes suppress some of these detrimental effects and can influence the lower production or reduced production of some of these abnormal proteins that we see in Parkinson's disease. Experimental models of insulin dependence and resistance demonstrate altered levels of proteins in the mitochondria. I've talked about mitochondria before on this channel. They briefly are kind of the powerhouses that generate energy for the cells. With a decrease in the ability to create energy, you get cell death, which makes sense. And especially our focus is on the death of dopamine producing neurons. Cognitive decline in Parkinson's may also be linked to abnormal control of blood glucose levels. It's not uncommon in the studies that I have conducted to have participants have Parkinson's disease, but also have type 2 diabetes. We know that elevated insulin levels can also increase cerebral inflammation and oxidative stress. Insulin levels that are elevated over a period of time can also produce pro-inflammatory cytokines, which again contribute to cell death. Insulin signaling has some positive effects on enhancing the creation of new neurons. Patients with Parkinson's often show elevated inflammatory markers, which leads to a more rapid progression of the motor symptoms in Parkinson's. So some of the lifestyle modifications that the authors recommended included adhering to a Mediterranean or ketogenic diet, keeping your BMI normal or on the low side of normal, exercising regularly, which is associated with a reduced risk of, first of all, developing Parkinson's, but also reduces the potential for quick progression of the disease. Some studies have indicated that some of the glucose-lowering medications that are used in patients with diabetes may also be effective in reducing insulin resistance in persons with Parkinson's. There's also some emerging research on the use of the GLP-1 agonists, such as Ozempic and Wegovy, to reduce insulin resistance. And of course, they have had wide use of medications like metformin to reduce blood glucose and therefore insulin levels. We also know that one of the effects of GLP-1 medications is they tend to reduce central nervous system inflammation. So what are my final tips and takeaways? Try to regulate your blood sugar. And I've said these before in some of my other videos. Reduce processed carbohydrate intake through the adoption of a ketogenic diet. Reduce refined and added sugars. Monitor your blood glucose levels daily. Include intermittent fasting protocols, either a 16-8, which is a 2-meal per day approach, or occasionally a 20 to 24-hour fast. Increase your resistance exercise to build muscle, which can become a glucose sink. In other words, increased muscle mass can help control your blood glucose. If you also have type 2 diabetes, consider the short-term use of some of these glucose-lowering medications to address your insulin resistance. Thank you for viewing my channel and this brief research review. I have posted the link to the study article in the description. If you are interested in participating in my research in Parkinson's disease, email me at study@co-parkinson.org. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications, and I'll see you on the next video.